It seems that Pelosi's singing is a great boon to China's strategic study, that is, it fully exposes the contradictions between American interest groups, especially good or bad. Leading to U.S. trust in China. 78 What the U.S. lost was Trotsky's visit to Taiwan, which attracted the attention of global strategic researchers. Russian military expert Alexei Lyankov said, "This kind of behavior will cause America will strategically always be China and bring China closer together." Such a sharp contradiction between China and the U.S. at this point seems to offer little hope for Russia's strategic environment. At this time, the Ross side desperately needs the help of a strategic partner. Of course, Russia hopes to be a pig, but China advocates peaceful settlement of international disputes. There has never been a military alliance led by Russia. The establishment, on the issue of not looking at the war, the United States has tried its best to win China over, but the recent actions of the United States make people think and repeatedly offend China. China's sanctions piled on top of each other. The blatant visit of senior officials made China's actions in the strategic interests of the United States extremely angry. It can no longer be simply explained by Australian comics or race. Can call you stupid. This is the ruling group of the United States. Internal interests cannot balance the effect of that conflict, but nonetheless, the result of this farce is really that it will. In this case, my thoughts will certainly rekindle the hope that from here China is increasingly having substantive exercises and even forming a military alliance that could potentially become part of Russia. Logically, the enemy of the enemy is a friend. China seems to have joined this camp to help Russia quell the impossible, but we will see that this is not necessarily Li Snow, although the war Ukraine is the no-beta war caused by NATO. Ordinary people suppress Russia's living space to solve the problem, and that's not China's. This is a questionable issue. The way today, even if you withdraw from the West to visit Taiwan and China, such a grand judgment will not be disturbed. Also currently, we cannot judge whether Pelosi's visit to Taiwan was more to cover up the crime of illegal stock trading for himself and his family. This so-called Taiwan issue is not necessarily aimed at the Taiwan issue, but also covers a series of international issues, including Wuhan. If China uses force to solve the Taiwan issue, then that is internal affairs of China. If the problem is tied to Han, courage, etc., will lead to China's defiance or avoidance, which is called the internationalization of the Taiwan issue. The international situation is appropriate to use this garden. Russian experts say that the United States has always been its China strategy, and it cannot be considered entirely true. USA. At least President Biden or in the leader of the opposition, Trump, has not publicly supported cooperation with criminal prosecution legislation, nor has the U.S. military disagreed with Pelosi's approach. So it seems that Pelosi's singing method is a great boon for China's strategic study. That's enough. Exposing conflicts between U.S. interest groups. The rise of conflict has forced leading politicians like Pelosi to put the national interests of the United States behind her. For any country, it was very dangerous for all Chinese feudal dynasties during the Mausoleum period. The phenomenon that the interests of small groups outweighed the interests of the nation occurred many times, and the serious consequence was that the domestic forces such as lords and the central government were overthrown, and eventually led to the overthrow of the dynasty. We can draw the conclusion that the United States may not always be China but the United States.